everyone. I'm so excited to have you on another episode of Right Off Track. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get ready to meet an exceptional marketing strategist and entrepreneur. Joining us today is my friend now, Caleb Roche. He is the founder and marketing strategist at Club Creative. And with a wealth of experience and expertise, Caleb works closely with companies employing a consulting approach to help them build a lifelong customer base through data-driven, customer-focused analytics approach and define marketing strategy. And what sets him apart, besides just being an awesome human being, is that his unwavering dedication to not only provide marketing consulting services, but also executing on the overarching strategy and enabling tangible results. And having had the pleasure of working with Caleb through my MBA, although I don't remember the class, we always joke about that, I can personally attest to his genuine supportive nature. And when I embarked on my own entrepreneurial venture at Right Off Track, Caleb was one of the first people I connected with. He offered support, and he's just been my go-to person. So that just speaks to the kind of person that he is. And today we're going to get ready to have an enlightening conversation and delve into the world of marketing strategy with Caleb's own entrepreneurial journey also being shared. And we'll explore his insights, experiences, and valuable guidance that will surely help us on our own marketing strategies and other marketing professionals who want to learn from him. So welcome to the show, Caleb.
Thanks for having me on. This is my biggest podcast appearance, I think, this year. So,
wow.
It was pretty amazing. So grateful to be here.
I'm glad we can make it happen. Your people contact my people.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, your PR person reached out to my PR person. So we're good.
I'm glad to make it happen. But so excited to have you on here. So much to tackle. And I know you're a marketing whiz, so we'll dive into that. But as you know, Right Off Track, I'm all about like the story, the why. And I connected with you and I was like, whoa, I need to have this person on my show. Because in my MBA, I didn't even realize your background. So can you share a little bit more about you and how you got to be this founder, entrepreneur, where you are today?
Yeah. So I always like to say, I wish I was like the 12-year-old that made $1 million and was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur forever. But my story started around 12. I started a dog walking service. It was called Caleb's Dog Walking Service, super creative, made business cards. And where the true like enjoyment from entrepreneurship came was I was very social at the time. I was homeschooled and we lived in this neighborhood where there was like these apartments right near us. And I noticed a lot of people would come back to the house for lunch to like let their dogs out. And so I like told my parents, I was like, I'm going to literally go door knock and like ask people if they want dog walking services, and I'll come in during lunchtime. They give me a key, and like for $5, I will come walk their dog and they don't have to go home. And then it's like a great little model.
Whoa.
And then I could get a couple of people and make like, $20 a day. So for me, it was awesome. So I ended up doing that, and I found some really cool people that I ended up doing it. And then it would turn into like, I would dog sit for the weekend. I make, $20, and it was so much fun. So one of those things that like I learned from a very young age that, man, this is pretty cool. Like being able to kind of do like what I want and my like kind of on my own terms. There's part of that comes with entrepreneurship. And so that was what started it. And then I ended up going and getting my degree in marketing, and I was working for a company.
Not at 12?
Yeah, no, not at 12, at 13 actually.
Cool.
I was almost finished with my bachelor's degree, and my wife and I just got married. We had bought our house. We thought we were on top of the world, thought we were super cool. We were making a salary job. And January of that upcoming year, I ended up the first week getting let go from my job. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those moments where we're like, holy cow, how are we going to pay the mortgage? I don't have a degree. I can't make the salary. And so it was a really eye-opening experience for us of even if you works for someone and it's really stable, you never know what can come. And so it was one of those things in the back of my mind of like, I always wanted to do something on my own. And so at that moment, I started a consulting company to basically make ends meet, pay our mortgage, and got to the point where it was somewhat successful, but not making the money that we needed. So I graduated from my bachelor's degree and ended up going and working for a company called Inspire Brands. They own Sonic, Jimmy John's, Buffalo Wild Wings, Arby's, Dunkin' Donuts. And we did market research for them for 2 years on the product side. So any new products that would come out, we would go down to different locations and test. And long story short, I found out that I was not a good employee. I did not like having someone telling me when I could go and not go to my wife's doctor's appointments when we had a baby or different things like that. And so I ended up growing my consulting business on the side to where I made more money from that than my salary. Mm-hmm. So I got to my wife and I'm like, hey, I have a really crazy idea. What if we do this full time? And thankfully she was gracious enough to be willing to trust that. And we haven't looked back, and we're 2.5 years in and still going strong. So no bankruptcy yet. So we're grateful.
I love the goal. The bar is set high right there. No
The bar set
bankruptcy.
high. Yes. Yeah. Bankruptcy is always the bar that I set.
I love that. And you could tell that you had this curiosity from an early age, which is funny because and when I was 13 in Russia, I started like selling Avon, which is not as cool as you, but like my dad, under my dad's name, he would buy the supplies and I'd sell it to the classmates because like, why not? So that's really cool. But now you're pursuing this very competitive marketing field. And I want to just like get yourself like, what kept you in that field? Like, why are you passionate and how do you stand out in a very saturated field, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. So what's interesting is a lot of people like to talk about the marketing side, and that's like it's like a common trend. You know, I own a marketing agency or a digital, and these buzzwords of like, not saying if someone's a part of it that it's a bad thing, but they tie to like this digital marketing agency or agency owners, and they get this identity behind like owning an agency. And so their big focus is how can I make the most amount of money in a very short amount of time? Not classifying everyone in that, but that seems to be the common trend. So what really drew me to this industry was the consumer behavior and the consumer insights behind marketing. That's what I did with Inspire, seeing how these companies are using and pouring millions of dollars a year into research about bettering products around their target customer and building better experiences. And so that's what really got me in, is not only, let's say you guys have Sonic Drive-In up there, right?
We do.
Okay. So not only thinking about, how do they make better drinks, but looking at data science and saying, how do we deliver the best experience on a cloudy day? Can we provide recommendations based on, what the weather's like, or can we improve our time from in kitchen, out of kitchen, or all these complex ideas that fall within marketing because it's customer experience, but we don't classify them as that. And so that's what really got me into the marketing side of, the actual consumer behavior of, we can put out a really good ad, but what is making it perform really well or really bad? And so that's what brought me into the field. Was it seems like this big industry and there's so many people in it, very competitive. But if you look at it, if you find the right clientele, they will come to you, and you can build long-lasting relationships with these people, especially on the marketing side, where they basically look at you as the subject matter expert, and they're relying on your business for their business to grow with you. And so that's where we've really stood out. Of our clients, we do our best, and sometimes we deliver, sometimes we don't. But our goal is to constantly under deliver and overperform, other than over delivering and underperforming. So our goal is setting the proper expectations with our clients of what they should be looking for, and when they work with us, what that comes with. And so that's been one of the things that we've really pushed on. Again, we've failed at that sometimes, we've been really successful, but our big thing is really identifying what is a marketing consultant's job and what do they need a marketing consultant for. Because I love making money, it's great, but at the end of the day, like if it's amazing, it's pretty great at making money. But at the end of the day, if we're doing something for them and it's not bringing them value or bringing them business or contributing to the overall well-being of their business, we're wasting their resources and time and something that they've worked really hard for.
Absolutely. And what I liked, and I mentioned this to you a couple of times, is like when I talk to you for advice, you're always sharing it, right? And I was like, oh, I have somebody who could use your advice. Can you share it? And he's like, yes, here's a free resource. And your approach in general is very non-salesy, and just as you as a human being are very much like, hey, how has that worked for you? How are you still making money?
Yeah, it's not as quickly as a profitable approach, but I think if you're trying to build, there's always a statistic. Businesses last 1 to 2 years. What is it? 50% don't last past 2 years, and I think it's like 80% don't last past 5 years. I don't quote me on those statistics because I'm probably way off on those.
Fact check.
Yeah, can we get a fact check on that? But I think what's interesting is I was looking at it from the long term. Obviously, you want to be really consistent on what you're making, and you want to make sure that you're making money from what you're doing. But I heard this really good analogy once that Gordon Ramsay could share his secret recipe. Let's say he can tell you, put a tablespoon of this and use this secret sauce. But what's fascinating is he can tell it to you, but you have to bake it the right way that he does. And there's so many different things that he does when he's cooking in the kitchen that you don't even know what he's doing, and he can't explain it, but it comes from years of experience. And so It's the same thing. You can provide the secret recipe. And that's why there's no secret recipe, but if there was, like from my education, I can provide people with all of the knowledge possible and help empower them. But at the end of the day, when it comes to implementation, I know how to implement properly. And there's another piece to that. And so while I can give information that's very helpful, there's still the implementation and execution piece that keeps my job alive. So again, it's the same thing with AI. AI is taking over marketing. There's still that piece where there has to be someone that translates AI and uses the AI algorithms to detect consumer behavior behind that. And so that's where, you can share all you want and charge for it, but at the end of the day, the relationships that you build from giving more than you take is always so much more beneficial. And it's been something, with Gary V. I read the book,
gosh,
right hook, right, the jab. And one of the things he talks about in that book, obviously, is, over delivering value, because at the end of the day, the money that you can make in the short term by selling your wisdom, let's say for a year, it's not as valuable as the relationships and the connections that you build by sharing your knowledge, because you're opened up to this new network of people that you can give and give and give in hopes that one day you can find that right connection.
I love that. And we talk about networking connection. Can you elaborate about, was there how impactful was that for your, development as an entrepreneur? Like, why are you helping people like me? Just like sharing your number, texting me silly ideas, and like I can text you silly ideas. I'm like, okay, Anya, I like this. This needs more improvement. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you helping others out? Why is it valuable?
Well, because it's like everyone that starts and gets somewhere, like, I'm nowhere close to where I want to be, but there's always people in front of me that are paving the way and providing those recommendations. And so if I can do that to someone that's starting out, that, I think everyone's experienced that like thrill and also just scaredness of like, oh my gosh, I'm starting this business. I'm not making money right now, or I'm making money, but like, I don't feel like I have it all together. I think everyone feels that way, but we don't express it. And so the more that we can collaborate together and kind of support each other in a really good way is super impactful, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, and why should we hide that from others? And so that's where, on the networking side, networking has been super powerful for me, of building communities, even like this, like, if we hadn't networked and gotten to know each other, like, we would not be on this podcast right now. And so the more that we can connect with other people, I just think the broader your reach, and the more, I just think the more reputable you are, and the easier you can connect with people if you're willing to do that.
Absolutely. And I think that's so powerful. Oh.
I think you're still on mute.
I should be unmuted. Okay. Always learning. No, networking is so powerful, and like I've been doing that more and more, and I've been doing that professionally, like, for a while, but for a specific goal in sight. And what I love is that when you have your own passion, right, especially when you start doing your own thing, right, you get very specific about what do I want to do, and even if you're figuring out, right, you're sharing that mission, you're sharing a vision, people come on board with it, and it's pretty amazing, like how you and I are still in the same country, right, but very far apart. But still, you can find people who support you all around the world, or even like in different places where you're not, because of the technology that's available, right? And that support, even if it's like one or a couple of people, when you're starting out, can be so impactful. Because I know for me, starting out, there's so much doubt. Like you said, one part is like, I'm so excited.
There still is. 5 years in, there's still a lot of doubt. Just be ready.
Right. There's so much doubt, but then other times, like, this is so meaningful, right? Can we talk about that? Like, so you've been growing, you still have things you want to achieve, like, but has there been something like, your mission or something that keeps you going? Because I know you're working crazy hours, you're doing all this stuff, putting hard, like, what keeps you going? And is there a strategy that's helped you, keep yourself as a good, like, growing as an entrepreneur, right, as a business owner, like, what has helped you advance in that area?
So I found a couple different things. So obviously one of them, and we'll talk about it later, but like finding creative outlets that I can kind of enjoy doing what I want. And so I feel like with any occupation, you kind of get caught up in the day to day. It feels like kind of a tedious little task. What started 5 years ago as like, this is the coolest thing ever, now is like, oh, this is so time consuming. Why am I doing this? And so you kind of lose like the fascination with it, let's say. And so the more that you can do, that I've learned, of just keeping that flame alive, of, for me, it's like I've built some microsites that really are around my interests and things that I like doing. And so it's like, I enjoy creating content, and I've kind of dove into like the affiliate marketing, or like, how can we, do all this? And to me, it's like not very large scale, like it's very small scale, but it's like something I enjoy. Like I can look at the website, but like, oh, that's cool. Or like for me, it's like looking at a website and saying like, what could I add to that with like pictures and a header and text to like make it more friendly to the user? So for me, one of the big steps was, what can I do that excites me? So that's, launching a podcast, launching these microsites, like doing some other fun things that I think really like bring the joy back that I can wake up and be like, okay, I'm going to start the day. The next thing that I've learned is you got to celebrate like even the littlest of wins, because, for instance, you lose a client and you're down, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is, and once you can realize like we lost a client, we need to kind of understand where we went wrong on that side of things. But the minute that you get a client back that, let's say they're a little bit higher paying, they're a lot better quality, holy cow, well, we just outweighed that. We got rid of like a client that we weren't really happy with, and we've added a much better client, higher paying and better quality. And so we are getting closer to what we want for our clients on like target audience. But it's so easy to forget that. And so the more little wins that you can celebrate, like the successes, the campaigns, like it really adds up to where I feel like every day I kind of like, hit myself with that, of like that little dopamine of like, okay, I can do this, like, and so the last thing that I've learned is, as hiring individuals, what's really incredible is when you get to the point, we started with like our first employee, so stressful, like, how do I train them and what's going on? And so you start to like realize that you never lose that. Like you hire, more employees and it just continues to be the same thing of like, I need to make sure they're trained. I need to make sure, but I'm still working and I'm still doing all these things and managing clients. What's interesting is, as I've hired incredibly talented individuals that work with us, it's amazing the time that they take off your hands and the much better work that they're able to do. So there's only so much work that I can do. And it's so fun watching, like I have a client that emails and like someone else is attached. I used to always have to be like right on that, if I'm on vacation, if I'm doing X. And now it's like, I've got team members that if I'm out, like my assistant can handle things, our graphic designer. And it's amazing because at the end of the day, like I can see that email like, okay, like I have full trust of these people and they deliver, and they always like have this great response and they create this graphic, and I'm not having to worry about like pulling out my computer during a vacation or with another client. And so as you scale, if employees are in your future, that's something to really look forward to, and like continue that movement of, man, these 5 people are taking time off my plate. What are 10 going to do for this? Or what are 15? And like, what can we accomplish with double the people, and that's what's like super exciting for me.
Love it. And can you tell me a little bit more about this? So now you have a couple of employees and like they're adding value, but it's scary, right? There's a time investment, there's a training. What have you learned that maybe you'd share with others who may be starting that journey of, thinking or are actively looking for their growing team members?
Ooh, I have a lot of wisdom on this because I've made a lot of mistakes in hiring. I've hired, fired. We have some great employees. We've had to fire some people. And I think one of the biggest things that I wish I had learned a little bit earlier was setting the right expectations with employees. So, especially when you're starting out and like you're paying a salary or even just like part-time, it's money coming out of your pocket. And so one of the things that you have to really communicate with employees is, where when you hire people is like setting the right expectations of what you're looking to get out of it and making sure that they have those same expectations and that they can deliver on those. Because as the boss, when I first hired, I was so focused on making sure that nothing fell through the cracks. And so if an employee, I didn't want employees to fail. Like to me, that's like, man, I want to support my employees. What I learned was there's a supportive role, and then there's something that you have to help them learn of like the actual failing side. And so I would get so wrapped up in like responding to something so quick, or they haven't responded yet and I haven't heard from them. Like I'm going to jump in, and letting them like take responsibility for certain things being communicated the right way has been really huge for me, that I wish I learned a little bit better. And then the setting expectations part is important as well, because if you're hiring someone and let's say for you're paying them a little bit higher than you want to pay for their role, but you think they're worth it, you need to make sure that you kind of push out those expectations like, hey, this is a little bit more than I'm comfortable with, but I see this from you, I value you, and I want this kind of work, but I kind of expect, it has to be realistic expectations, but there has to be some sort of goal there for both of you. So those are a couple of things that I've learned. And then obviously like making sure that you're communicating with like kind of your team members, like that's something that we're always working on, that I feel like as a smaller org, we're kind of always kind of hammering out little fixes, but finding ways to engage with your people and making sure that, especially as small business owners, we like to look at it as like, oh, we're paying them, so they need to make sure like they need to always be available. But what I think is really important is developing a sense of your employees work when they work and they enjoy family time, like, or, time away. And I think that's a really important key as business owners that we sometimes forget as we're a small org, that like we think they should be 24/7, and that's going to like push them away further. And so that's some of the things that I've kind of learned throughout that process.
Absolutely. And like right off track is not just about like, hey, we see Caleb, he's doing great, he's growing, he's hiring employees, he's helping $1 million clients and all that cool stuff. But I'm sure there were some moments that were challenging, like you mentioned. Can you talk about maybe like key off track moments and how they helped you along the way?
100%. I mean, I have millions of these. So, I mean, I have so many of them. I mean, we've had clients that have gone wrong. Like I've ghosted clients before, and like that's been super unprofessional on my side because I got super overwhelmed of, like things happening, and you have like family stuff going on, and you have like work stuff, and like clients are continually calling and you just can't answer. Like, so one of those things was figuring out better communication processes for that. That was a big piece of like, you can't ghost clients when you're a consulting firm. I'll just tell you that now because it's not a good idea.
I'm shocked. This seems like a great idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's a very profitable approach. So that piece, and then really like one of the other key learnings is I think setting expectations with your clients, no matter what industry you are, of like what you're delivering and what you're charging for it and what that comes from. Because I think I've spent a lot of time really investing in people that like clients that we've gone above and beyond, and they just will never see the value. And so you have to make sure that like you protect your time and your business as well. So those are some learnings from business. And then employees, obviously, one of the things that I think is really important is setting like performance indicator plans or performance improvement plans. I'm sure you've heard of those before, and like not
PIPs.
For your experience, but PIPs, but corporate America. But I think something like that is really important when it comes to employees, because we're so quick to like, okay, this person's not working out, we need to really like get them out. But I think there's something to be said about letting someone know like, hey, your performance is lacking. We've had conversations. We're going to move towards this plan of like, getting you like figuring out if your performance can get to par. But it's a really good method for you to understand, is this person just having something going on in their life that they're not discussing, and something's going on, and this is kind of like a reset expectations, or it's just their personality. And so I think there's a lot to be said about something like that.
Yeah. Love that. And then if you don't mind me diving like beyond the business, but you personally, you mentioned, I think when we talked just offline, that your first year starting was like the hardest year, right? And I think that's very common. And I wonder like people who are thinking like, hey, I want to do something, but like, I'm really scared, right? I don't really know. I think it's important to talk about the real side of it, and that maybe you didn't have it all figured out. You didn't know what maybe you were doing. Like, I'm just speculating. I'm not saying that's your case.
I didn't know what I was doing. Yes, absolutely.
But could you like share like some wisdom, like, or recommendations for somebody who's like, I want to do something. I want to go a little off track. I'm not sure how to start. Like, what would you say to those people?
So one of the things that I always heard is like, you never get farther by not starting. And so it's easy to think about the plans that you have. It's easy to think about what systems you want to implement. And what's amazing is that first year is always the hardest year, but it's the easiest year to get stuff done as well. And it's important to have that mindset, because if you think about it, the things that I wanted to implement, some of the things that I wanted to implement 5 years ago, I have not implemented today. Like, it's so sad. But you think about that, I've had over 1,500 days that I could implement some sort of system, process, idea, and I have not acted on that. And so it's not even I guess that'd be what? Yeah, 1,500. I thought I was super off on math. I was like, please don't judge my math skills, but thankfully I had it right. But
we can keep this in then.
Yeah. We're good. My math skills are not questioned here. But one of the things that I think is really important on that is it's going to be extremely hard, because not only if you're married or if you have kids, like outside of that, like there's so many aspects that go into business ownership. You have to send invoices. You have to make sure your books are set up. You have to make sure your LLC, you have to get up your bank accounts. And so I think it's easy to think of this as like, oh, it's so exciting, I'm starting a business. And then we jump into this like excitement to where it's like, man, this is way more work than I expected. And I could have never envisioned that this would be the kind of work that I'd be doing. But at the end of the day, like if you have that mentality of, I need to get stuff done because this is the perfect time before I have employees to set things in place. If I don't have clients, this is the perfect time for me to understand what does my intake process look like and build it out from scratch before you're like 5 clients deep and trying to adjust an intake process. Not saying that we did that, but we did that based on like what you're learning. And obviously you can continually tweak, but it's important to lay that groundwork. And that's where I think the distinguishing feature between startups and business owners, which is kind of interesting. If you look at startups, they have all the resources that they need to get started. Okay. They have the funding, typically, like they have the product, and they spend sometimes up to 5 to 10 years building a product. And while some of them get quicker, some of them slower, whatever that looks like. They have all the resources versus a business owner typically bootstraps and kind of scraps together some things. And within 5 years, they have a pretty successful product typically. And so what's interesting is combining like the resources that you have, the time that you have, but knowing that as you grow, like the responsibilities keep getting bigger. And so there's no time like the present right now, you know? So that's where it's like going to college. You've never experienced college until you go for the first time. And then you'll always hear of people giving you experiences of, man, these parties are great, or stay away from the parties, or you're gonna study all the time, or you're never gonna study, and it's based on your own experience and what your personality is like. So it's one of those things that like if you commit to it, you have to commit to it for the next couple of years, you know?
Absolutely. And I know we're at time, so I want to give you a moment. Like, is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to share with the world before we wrap up?
The world does not need my knowledge, so we got a limited amount of knowledge out there.
Okay, well then at least share us, like, what is your podcast? Where do people connect with you? How do we get more Caleb time?
We have a more Caleb time. Yes, there's plenty of opportunity for Caleb time at Club Conversation. So we've started a podcast called Club Conversations. It's kind of a way for us to find a creative way to kind of express marketing trends, what's going on in the industry. And so we have a podcast on Spotify. It'll be on Apple here soon called Club Conversations. It's a marketing podcast. They can find us on LinkedIn, Caleb Roche MBA. I'm connected with Anya. So if you're connected with Anya, it should be easier to find me. So if you don't connect with Anya and then connect with me. So that's where you can find me.
I love it. Okay. We're going to wrap up with 3 quick questions, like just like in the moment, whatever comes to mind, and then we'll let you go. Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
Are you ready?
Yep. This is scary.
Love it. Okay. What motivates me the most is?
What motivates me the most is providing the best life for my family that I can.
Okay. Success to me is?
Success to me is building an organization that has multiple individuals working under it, that is delivering high quality marketing services to our clients.
Love it. Last one. Going off track is?
Going off track is not communicating with our clients, not delivering assets when they're needed, and just delivering a terrible experience to our clients.
Okay. What about the positive side? I'm talking about the positive off track.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I went down the wrong habit.
We'll keep this in. I love it.
Yes. So going off track helps us and build better systems and processes to serve our clients better. And it teaches us where our strengths and weaknesses are and where we need to identify those.
Okay. I love it. Well, you're awesome. You know, like, you're a friend, and I appreciate you. And I want people to listen to this, share what they thought, like ask Caleb questions, tag us in your comments. We'd love to hear from you and your stories, how you're starting, any wisdom you have about marketing or anything else around the entrepreneurial space. But overall, thank you today for your time. I appreciate it. And thanks for sharing your wisdom today with us.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on. And this is the best podcast out in the world. So everyone better listen to it.
You're awesome. Thank you, friend. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.